price of freedom is death. We're coming to get our check.
Black first, my brothers and my sisters. Welcome to the Afro Elite YouTube channel. I'm your host, Afro Elite. And before we get started, please make sure that you guys are subscribed to the channel because that helps the reach and growth of the channel. Subscribe, hit that like button, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on any future content. And also share this on your various social media platforms or to a family or friend because all of that helps the reach and the growth of the channel. Now, before we get started, we have a pretty good broadcast tonight going on. We have a couple of things that need to be discussed real fast. Make sure my audio is good. I want to give a special thank you to every single last one of you guys who has subscribed to the channel. Thank you. Shout out to all of the day one subscribers. Shout out to all of the people who've come on board recently. Shout out to all of the new subscribers that I've gained over the last couple of days or so. My last couple of videos have been like really taken off, and we have officially reached over 7,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, over 7,000 subscribers on YouTube. I said we're on our way to 10K, and I said they're going to try to stop us. I said they're going to try to shadow ban, and they did, and I showed the proof. I showed the actual proof that we were on our way to 10K and that they shadow banned us. And I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. All hope is not lost. All we have to do is we have to push so hard. We have to be so on code that their shadow banning doesn't mean anything. And you guys did it. Y'all did it. All right. We pushed so hard. All right. They're shadow banning. They completely like, oh, well, we clearly can't shadow ban this guy. Bam. In a couple of days after I announced that, everybody got like lock sync on code. And now we are at 7,000 subscribers. Oh, we're starting the month off very, very good. The month is starting off wonderfully. Okay. And that's thanks to you guys. That's thanks to you guys. Okay. We're all here doing our part. I'm sitting up there. I'm on the laptop with the microphone and everything like that. I'm breaking the information down. You guys are here. You guys are echoing it. You guys are sharing it, liking it, being here. All of what you guys are doing. They can't stop this. They can't stop the momentum that we're building up. So I want to thank every single last one of you all for your support. All right. We have Cornell Sly for thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate you, brother, for the $50, the first super chat, $50. Talk about starting off everything great. Starting off we're not even 5 minutes in, and we already have a $50 super chat. He says, congratulations, Afro Elite, support B1 Media. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I support you, brother. Thank you for your support. Thank everybody for being here. I appreciate every single last one of you. I really, really do. All right. So we're going to get into the topic because there's some things that need to be discussed. All right. Some things that need to be discussed. Shout out to everybody in here. Shout out to every single last one of you all, you brothers and sisters in here. All right. So starting off, there's been a bill introduced that is, which I mean, federally, it's not really legal, but the bill that has been introduced has allowed now immigrants, non-citizens, they do not have to be American citizens to now join local law enforcement. All right. So let's actually look into the bill itself, because this isn't me reading an article from Fox News or anything else. This is me going straight to the bill so we can see exactly what is on the bill itself. All right. Let me make this tad bit bigger for everybody. Please make sure as you're coming in that you guys are subscribed. If you guys are not subscribed, please do so. Hit that notification button and hit that like button. Appreciate you very much. Thank you. Love you, family. All right. So this bill is called the HP 3751. Okay. So we're just going to read a little bit right up here. I'm going to zoom in right here because I know the font is very small. I'd like for you guys to see it. Okay. Now, there's some other details that we don't need to read, but we're going to read what's important. It says, amends the Illinois Municipal Code provides that an individual who is not a citizen but is legally authorized to work in the United States under federal law is authorized to apply for a position of police officer, subject to all requirements and limitations other than citizenship. So they would have to pretty much go through all of the, I guess, background checks that the normal police officers do. The police officers that they allow to be in, America's police station, law enforcement or whatever, who they literally allow white supremacists. They literally allow members of the Proud Boys, members of the KKK. They literally allow those Confederate flag t-shirt wearing members to be in law enforcement. So the requirements to be in law enforcement in America is not strict at all. All right. It says, all subject to all requirements and limitations other than citizenship to which applicants are subject. Okay. And it's effective January 1st, 2024. Now we're going to read in here just in case there's, anything that we already read this part. So we're going to read here. Okay. It says, now this is pretty much the same thing, but we're going to read everything so that way we know for a fact what it is. So nobody can be all like, no, that's not what it is. You guys have read misinformation. This is from the Illinois Gov website. This is their actual website. This isn't Fox News or some YouTuber or some blog or anything like that. All right. Now it says, provides that an individual who is not a citizen but is legally authorized to work in the United States under federal law, who is authorized to apply for a position of police officer or sheriff, not just a regular police officer. They're talking about a sheriff, somebody who's out here calling the shots. Somebody when the police, that means when a police needs somebody or a citizen is calling a sheriff or a higher authority on the police misconduct or anything, you're going to have somebody who comes out who's not even a legal citizen. All right. That's what's going to happen. It says police officer or sheriff shall be subject to federal approval to obtain, carry, or purchase or otherwise possess a firearm. Then for the Senate floor, now that was the House floor amendment, all right? And then this was the Senate floor amendment. Replaces everything after the enacting clause. Reinserts the, sorry. I'm going to move my laptop a little bit so I can see it a little bit better. Reinsures the provisions of the engrossed bill and adds that an individual against whom immigration action has been deferred by the U.S. citizenship and the Immigration Service under the federal deferred action of childhood arrivals. This is DACA. Now we're going to get into what DACA is a little bit later, okay? Because a lot of people talk about DACA, but no, people don't really talk about what DACA really is. So we're going to get into what DACA is in a little bit. It says process is allowed to apply for the position of police officer and deputy sheriff or special policeman, subject to specified requirements. And this is effective January 1st, 2024. All right. So this is what it is. That was very brief, but we had to discuss that. We had to discuss what it is. All right. Because in the video I'm about to show you guys now, let me pull it up real fast. In the video I'm about to show you all, we're going to see, because there's been a lot of pushback about this. So we're going to see J.B. Pritzker's response in his defense to him signing off. And J.B. Pritzer is the governor of Illinois. So we're going to get into his response to it. So I wanted to show you on the government website. what it was before you check out his response to it. All right. So pulling this up. Circle this. Oh, hold on.
It is proposing or putting out their false information as usual.
Now he says, as usual, okay, they're proposing and putting out false information.
As usual, the far right is proposing or putting out their false information. They're saying that we're allowing illegal immigrants is the word that they would use. Undocumented immigrants are not allowed to become police officers in the state of Illinois still. What we have allowed is legal permanent residents and DACA recipients now to become police officers. So we have the ability for people who are legally in this country, and again, permanent residents or DACA recipients now to apply for jobs as police officers. But I am tired of the right wing twisting these things. They put it out on Facebook. They tell lies. They attack based upon those lies. They're perpetuating lies. So there are people out there that think that we're just allowing anybody to become a police officer. That's just not accurate. 2 other states already have provided this. We have a U.S. military that has 35,000 immigrants who are not U.S. citizens who are serving in the U.S. military today. 8,000 more sign up every year. We allow that in our U.S. military. We allow it in a couple of other states, and more states are adding on to this list of states that are allowing legal permanent residents. So I'm proud that we are doing this. I think it's the right thing to do. It's also good for our police departments. And oh, by the way, the Fraternal Order of Police has supported it.
Okay. All right then. Okay. So did you catch that? That's pretty much a distinction without a difference. All right. Because the argument is these are not legal citizens. His argument is, you're correct. These aren't legal citizens, but they are eligible to work. They're DACA recipients. They're not illegal. They're not citizens, but they're not illegal. Okay. They're eligible to work. So, kind of, I'm white and I say so. That's really what it is. That's like somebody, what he did, and then he moved past that to talk about other things because he does that doesn't really make sense. And that's what people are saying. Okay, so they're not citizens, they're able to work here, but you're going to give them the authority to become police, to become sheriffs. And Rob Rob is in here from Black Light Revelations. He mentioned a good point. Sheriffs have to be elected. So how does that make sense? How does that work? All right. That's literally like me saying, now I didn't give the kids, I didn't give minors alcohol. I didn't give any minors any alcohol. I technically gave people who were underage alcohol, but they're not minors. All right. They're underage, but they're not minors. So, it's a difference there. Someone's like, oh, well, that's still wrong. Well, I'm not saying it's not wrong. I'm just saying that the wrong you're saying I'm doing is not the wrong I'm doing. I'm doing a different wrong. So I just want to, be clear on the wrong that I'm doing, which is not the wrong that you're accusing me of. That's pretty much what he's doing. All right. They're not citizens. You want to talk about their DACA, they're this, they're okay. DACA. We hear that. All right. We hear DACA a lot. But what is DACA? So let's actually look into what DACA really is. Because people make it seem like DACA is damn near a citizen nowadays. So we're going to actually look into see what DACA is. Now, pulled up this website. Okay, this is DACA Explained. This is going to explain DACA, what DACA really is and all of this thing. So we're going to take a little bit of time to look into all of this. All right. It says the recipients of DACA, I said recipients of DACA are young people who have grown up as Americans, identify themselves as Americans, and many speak only English. Really? Let How many people, how many honestly, let's be completely honest. How many of them do you think only speak English? How many of them do you think, whether they're DACA or not, whether they're legal citizens or not, how many you think many only speak English? There's not many Hispanics here that only speak English. That's a rarity, to be honest. But okay, many only speak English. All right. And have as many only speak English and have no memory of or connection with the country where they were born. Okay, all right. Well, let's look into that. Under current administration law, most of these young people had no way to gain legal residency, even though they lived in the U.S. most of their lives. Oh, okay. Now, they're not really getting to the number until later on. They want to explain what it is, talk about they only know America. The only country they ever loved is America. They pledge their allegiance to the flag and they sing the national anthem every single time they watch a football game, and they only know English and they only eat hot dogs and they celebrate the 4th of July, and they're more patriots than the most patriotic patriots. You can't get more American loyal than these DACA recipients. Oh, okay. All right. So let's look even further, because I mean, the way it's starting off, you think that they were very, very patriotic. They must have been here for a long time to have. Now, remember this one: no memory of or connection with the country where they were born. Now, in the chat room, I'm going to ask a question before we continue. In the chat room, how old do you have to be, or how young, I would say, how young would you have to be to move to another country and not have any memory of the country where you were born? At what age, and then let me make it easier. At what age does a human being start to develop memory? Okay, long-term memory. Would you say age 5, age 7? I want to know what you guys think, because this is going to be important as we go on, because it's saying they have no memory or connection with the country where they were born. So what age do you think? You said 2 to 3. There are some people saying 2. Some people, there are people who have memories about 2 years old. Okay. Now, some people are saying 2, some people are saying 5. So essentially, another person 2. Okay, so 0. So essentially, they're saying that these people, another person saying 2. So there's a lot of 2s, there's 4s. So between the ages, let's say roughly, based off of what the chat is saying, between the ages of 2 to 5, even if we push it a little bit and say about 6, that's pretty pushing it. That's pushing it, because I have memories when I was 5 years old. I have very vivid memories of me in classrooms when I was 5 years old. So I know it goes back at least that far. And I know I remember things before that. I don't probably remember how old I was, but I know I have memories older than that. So I know for a fact that you can remember beyond the age of 5. Okay. Now, for them to say they have no memory or connection, that's important too, because you don't have to have lived in a country to have a connection with the country. But for them to say they have no memory or connection with the country where they were born. All right. Based off that statement, you would assume that these were pretty much newborns who came to America. They might have been born in another country, but within a year or so, they came to America based off that statement. But okay, let's continue. All right. Now we're right here. It says, many dreamers say they don't. Now they say, okay, many dreamers say they don't know they were unauthorized immigrants until they were teenagers. Really? Okay. Wow. Oh, all right. I mean, just believe them, I guess. Believe they don't speak Spanish either, because they told you so. Which you can't prove. You cannot prove they don't speak Spanish. You would just have to take their word that they cannot speak Spanish. There's no way to prove that they are incapable of understanding and speaking Spanish. You can't do that. All right, but let's continue. Often when they are discovered, they couldn't join their peers in getting driver's licenses or filling out financial aid forms for college because they don't have social security numbers. The DREAM Act would have provided a pathway to U.S. citizenship to certain undocumented youth who go to college and / or serve in the military while maintaining a good record. Okay, all right. Now you think in order for them to be able to do this, they'd have to be like born in this country. But the thing is, if they were born in this country under the Constitution, they would technically be citizens under birthright citizenship. So they're not born in the country. So they would have to come here as what did the chat room say again? Like what, 1.5, 2 years old for them to have no memory or connection based off of what they're saying. All right. And it continues to say, DACA enables certain people who come to the U.S. as children, not babies, okay, children, to meet several key guidelines to request certification and deferred action. It allows non-U.S. citizens who qualify to remain in the country for 2 years. So, mind you, it's a time limit. DACA is a time limit, all right? Even if they came as babies, if they're a DACA recipient, it's a time limit. All right. So they're not permanent citizens. Those are different. It says remain in the country for 2 years, subject to renewal. Recipients are eligible for work authorized and other benefits, and they are shielded from deportation. The fee to request DACA is $495 every 2 years, $95 every 2 years. So yeah, they're making a lot of money off this. Okay. So remember, y'all, I asked, and I highlighted this because it's important. At what age, if you were to travel to another country, at what age, because they're trying to make it seem like, oh, they're not from whatever country, they have no memory. They're just as American as you. Okay, all right. That's what they say. So about maybe 2 years old, you think they wouldn't even be walking to have, because about the time you can walk, you start developing memories, long-lasting memories that last for the rest of your life. So you think like, okay, these probably are little babies in a little car seat or a stroller or whatever. Okay, so let's look at the age, right? Let's scroll down just tad bit. Okay, and look at the age. DACA recipients. Since DACA began, approximately 800,000 people. 800,000 people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Okay, so, and we can just chalk this up. There's probably more than 800,000 if we're going to be totally honest. Okay. But okay, 800,000 people have been approved for the program. To be eligible, now it says approximately, so it's not exactly. So we can just assume this is probably lowballing the number, but all right. To be eligible, applicants had to have arrived in the U.S. before age 16 and lived here since June 15th, 2007. Before age 16, y'all. I thought they said that the people coming over here probably couldn't speak Spanish, could only speak English, and they have no memory or recollection or connection to the country that they lived in. So you mean to tell me a 15-year-old could come to the city, America, and become a doctor based off what they're saying? They have to be here before age 16. So a 15-year-old could be an eligible DACA recipient. So you're telling me a 15-year-old has no record? First off, it's not like they're speaking English really heavy over there. So Spanish is going to be their first language. So they lied. And they have no, as a 15-year-old, you have no connection or loyalty to the country where you were born in. You have no memory of it. See, they'll say that in the first paragraph and then not expect you to scroll down and read further. And then when you read further, you see the age 16. But based off of what they were saying up here, you think the age was like 1.5 or 2. You think they still sucking on pacifiers at the age where they came to America based off of this statement, no memory or connection with the country where they were born. And then they're like, oh yeah, before the age 16. Okay, oh, all right. I don't know what y'all talking about, but normally by the age 16, you've already, had a connection to your country. Okay. And damn, you're almost an adult at 16 legally in the United States. That at 16 years old, you just need 2 more years and you'll be a legal adult at that age. And let me ask you another question. Let me ask you another question. If they're coming from another country, right? How do you know what their age is? Now, let's be honest. We have a lot of them coming over here, and a lot of them are saying, I'm 14 years old, I'm 15 years old. It's an epidemic, and there's been studies and stats proving this. They come over here and they say that they're so young so they can get into these certain benefited programs, and there's not vetting going on, and that's deliberate. So they can get into these DACA programs, these Dreamer programs, all of these programs. They talk about they're 13 years old and they're 6'2" with a full beard and a bald head. Like, oh, wow, you're a very mature 16-year-old. You're a very mature 14-year-old. So that's a big finesse that's going on. A lot of them just come here and say, oh, yeah, I'm 16 years old. Oh, you're pretty big for a 16-year-old. They have a women, I'm 16 years old. Oh, wow, this is your 4th child. You must have been a very active in the last couple of years. You're 16 years old and the son next to you is a fully grown adult. Wow. How's that work? But a lot of them come here. I'm not making anything up. This is proven. This is facts. We know this. I'm just telling the truth. They come over here and they just lie about their age. I'm like, well, okay. Well, I mean, you're saying you're 16. You're saying you don't speak Spanish. You're saying you don't have any connection to the country where you were born in. So I guess there's just no other reason to just believe you. You might as well. Here you go. All right. Seems like a pretty easy process for somebody to finesse themselves in. Exactly. They do the January 1st scam. A lot of them, they'll have the same birthdays. They won't come here. Let's be honest. If you're fleeing from another country, let's really think about it. You're fleeing from another country. Are you going to bring all of your paperwork with you? Like, do you think that they do that? Let's just be real. Let's be real. If they have it. Now, I know America's a little different with Social Security and birth certificates and things like that, right? Do you think the immigrants that are fleeing to America with their children, do you think not only are the parents bringing their birth certificate, they're bringing their kids' birth certificate to prove when their child was born? Do you think that they're doing that? Let's be real. So who's to say that this person over here who's 18 is not going to say, oh, no, I'm 15? Can you prove that this person is not 18 years old? How many of them are coming over with their birth certificates? I don't think very many. Very many are not coming over here with any sort of documentation whatsoever. And that's not me making it up. This is a fact. This isn't me being hateful or xenophobic. This is a fact. All right. So if anybody says that's not a fact, they're not telling you the truth. But let's continue. All right. So 16 years old. All right. Can be older than that before the age of 16. So they can come here a week or so before their birthday of 16 years old. Hey, they're eligible. All right, cool. All right. Now it says they could, we're right here. They could not have been older. It goes up. They could not have been older than 30 They cannot have been older than 30. Am I reading that wrong? 30 years old? I thought 16 was a high number. 30? They couldn't have been older than 30. Y'all, I'm not even 30. I'm not even 30. They couldn't be older than 30. Oh, okay. They couldn't be older than 30. They couldn't be older than 30 when the Department of Homeland Security enacted the policy in 2012. So they could have been in their mid to late 20s in 2012, and they would be, yeah, they'd be eligible. As long as they weren't older than 30 years old. All right, 30, okay. DACA applicants have to provide evidence that they were living in the U.S. at prescribed times. They don't have to provide evidence of when they were born. How do you know? Now, 30-year-old, that's a lot easier to finesse. You think a 16-year-old, that might be difficult to finesse. How can you finesse if somebody's like, oh, I wasn't 30. I was 29 years old. I was 28 years old. They'd be 40 years old talking about, yeah, I'm 29. Yeah, I just get gray hairs from the family. It's a genetic thing. You know what I'm saying? They coming over here with arthritis and bald heads and rotten teeth and talking about they're 28 years old. Then you couldn't prove them wrong. They just let them in. Oh, well, okay. Well, you said it. We have to believe you. Now, then it says DACA applicants would have to provide evidence that they were living in the U.S. at the prescribed times, proof of education and confirmation of their identities, which they get identities. What that means that the U.S. would provide them. They won't have to provide confirmation of their identities prior to coming to the U.S. Okay. Confirmation of their identities. They also had to pass background, fingerprint, and other biometric checks that record identifying biological features. Okay, that's fingerprint, maybe like a saliva sample or whatever the case is, stuff like that. Then it continues to say, DACA is largely seen as successful and has assisted young people in a variety of ways. A 2017 national study revealed that 91% of, hold on, let me mute my phone. 91% of DACA respondents are currently employed. Damn. With a country of mass unemployment, don't you find it weird that, now, mind you, remember what we said earlier? They have to renew their application every 2 years. Only every 2 years, okay? They have, so you mean to tell me DACA recipients have lower, that means only 9% are unemployed. 9% are unemployed. You mean to tell me DACA recipients have lower unemployment levels than actual, real foundational Black Americans? It's very, very high. For them not to be born in America. Okay. They're not doing that bad, it seems like it. Okay, let's continue. Their average hourly wage is $17.46 an hour. Okay. That's not too bad. I mean, that's not great. You're not a six-figure earner at that wage, but I mean, for somebody who's not in this country at all, and the minimum wage is not $17.46 an hour, they're doing pretty good. It seems they're being taken care of really well. If only actual citizens can get this. This would be, oh, okay, wow. Yeah, exactly. That's more than a national average. Well, first off, majority of them are employed, and majority of them, they're saying on average, they make about close to $20 an hour. All right, okay. This says up from $10.29 before receiving DACA. So DACA gives them a big boost. So they're making $7 in about it wouldn't be like really 20 cents. It would be about 15 cents, $7.15 an hour more when they receive DACA. Oh, okay. It says 55% of respondents are currently in school, and among those currently in school, 72% are pursuing a bachelor's degree or higher. Nearly 80% of respondents said they obtained driver's license. Okay. Which is also a public safety improvement for, how is it an improvement? An improvement, a public safety improvement for all people. Well, how? How is that an improvement for all people? I don't understand that. Unless they were driving without licenses, and I guess them getting a license, I would assume probably would be a little bit safer than them driving without licenses. But how is them saying more licenses is an improvement for the public safety of everybody? How is that? Okay, all right. But it seems like the standards to become DACA, and I'm reading this because I'm showing you the standards to become a DACA recipient aren't that high, and the benefits are. The benefits are that high. Okay, oh, all right. It says DACA recipients include doctors. Oh, wow, cool. Nurses, grocery store workers, child care providers, cleaners, business owners, restaurant workers, and first responders. Oh, okay. Wow. They everywhere. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. For them, I guess. It says, since, y'all know this is the forbidden word. It's forbidden word right here. Since C19 crisis has shown that these positions are an essential part of our workforce. DACA recipients make up 200,000 essential workers, including 71,000 healthcare workers on the front lines in the fight against this virus. This is why additional papers were recently filed in a Supreme Court case warning of the risk of public health if DACA recipients were certainly open to deportation in the middle of the pandemic. Okay. Yeah, but it was a lot to be, and they want to say, yeah, they were a lot of essential workers. Not really. Child care providers, let's be honest, there was not a lot of the daycares and schools, they were closed. So child care providers, you can scratch that out. Cleaners, that means, when they say cleaners, they mean hotel cleaners and stuff like that. That's not really an essential. To say an essential worker, restaurants were pretty much closed down at that time. Okay. Not too many of them are first responders. Let's just be real about that. Not too many of them are first responders like that. Oh, okay. So they're kind of, and really not too many of them are doctors and nurses. Let's just keep it a buck. Let's keep that 100% for real. A lot of them were doctors and nurses. I thought you said they can't. What? Based off of what you're saying, they're young. Based off of what you're saying, they couldn't be that old. So how would they be doctors and nurses? You don't really see too many young doctors. Most of the doctors, when you go to the hospital, when you go to places that have doctors, most of the doctors you see are in their like late 30s, 40s. You don't really see too many like 24-year-old doctors. At least I haven't. I don't really see that, but okay, they're very important. All right. Okay. We're going to read a little bit in here, and then because there's other things that we have to discuss as well too. Oh, okay. They're talking about their doctors, and oh, really? They're doctors. How when you go to the hospital, do you see DACA doctors? You see them as doctors, really? Oh. But that's crazy how you can become a doctor in a country before you can become a citizen. That's crazy how they set that up, but all right. It says most Americans, I wonder where this poll was. Most Americans support granting legal status to immigrants. Where was this poll done? Okay, we're going to look into that. Most Americans support granting legal status to immigrants who came to America and to United States illegally as children, according to the Pew Research Poll Center. 20% are opposed. In addition, a majority of people, 56, oppose expanding the wall among the U.S. border. Okay, so before we look at the poll, and then we're going to go to someplace else, I want to have a poll right now. You want to do a poll right now? I think we should do a poll right now. Can we do a poll? Yeah, let's do a poll. Let's see if we can have a poll going on. So I wish I knew how to like make a poll in the middle of the chat. I think I can actually, this would be my like first time actually even ever trying to do it. But let's see if we can get a poll going on. Yeah, okay. So the question is, I'm gonna ask the question. Is, do you support granting legal status? Hold on. Granting, now it's not letting me. I'm gonna highlight this. And I'm just doing this. I wasn't even thinking about doing this. I was not even thinking about doing this, but I'm going to do this right now before we continue, as we're looking at the thing right here. So support granting legal status, this live poll right now. So it's up right now. So I'm going to now I'm going to pin it to the top. Or I think it's already pinned to the top. Okay. So do you support, yes or no, them granting legal status to immigrants who came to the United States illegally as children? So as we're asking the poll right then and there, we're going to go to the Pew Research Center to see the details of it, because that article doesn't seem like it's really telling the full accurate truth of that. All right. We're just going to read a little bit of this. Okay. So got to take this off real fast. A lot of people saying no already. No surprise there. I'm going to be honest. No surprise there. So going to go here. And we're going to look at, it says, and this was in 2018. All right. This is saying, in 2018, Americans broadly supported legal status for immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children. Oh, okay. And by children, they mean 15-year-olds. They don't mean babies, because we just saw, they just mean like 16-year-old children. You know, those are children, according to them. So it says, most Americans, this is what it's saying. We're not going to read too much into this because we have something else we have to look into. Is the poll, let me see, is the poll there? Because I'm looking to see. Okay, yeah, the poll is there. Because that's the first time, honestly, I've ever done a poll. So if you guys don't see, you might want to like refresh. Let me see. Might want to like refresh or something like that to see if the poll is there. But it's saying that it is. But anyway, it says most Americans favor granting permanent legal status to immigrants who came to the U.S. illegally as children, and 56% majority oppose substantially expanding the wall among the U.S.-Mexican border. Now, this is the poll. Nearly 3/4, 37% of Americans favor. Did you guys take this? When they do these polls to show, and most of America is in favor of this. Most of America is in favor. Do they ask you all? Because we're doing a poll right now. And based off the numbers of the poll we're doing right now, a lot of people are saying no. So where are these, when they do these polls, where are these polls? I never see these polls when they do them. Pure Research, y'all just be having all these mysterious polls that just be popping up out of nowhere with these results. Where are we when the polls go on? Because I like to be asked. I like to share my opinion. Y'all be very selective with who y'all let know y'all got polls going on. That's very interesting, I find. Okay, but all right. It continues to say nearly 3/4, 37% of Americans favor granting permanent legal status to immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally when they were children, while just 20% are opposed. according to the new national survey by Pew Research Center conducted June 15th 12, that means 2012, among 2002 adults. Where are these adults located at? Are these adults citizens? Are these adults of a specific ethnicity that might be biased and leaning towards the fact that immigrants are coming over here? Are these adults immigrants themselves? Like, where was your constituency that took the poll? Who are they? Where did you get these polling numbers? Are these just random throughout the nation? Are these select? I don't know. But okay, all right. Yeah, it seems very interesting. In 2000, to be honest, that's not a very big number for a question like this. For them to say majority of Americans, you only ask 2,000. 2,000 is not nearly a majority of Americans. Now, if they ask like maybe 10,000 or even 5,000, I would say, okay, well, maybe their answer is probably a little bit more accurate if they ask that, but they didn't even ask that. I'm like, okay, all right. Because I'm seeing the poll right here. The poll right here isn't looking that good, but all right. It says, opinions on the issue and views of expanding the U.S.-Mexican border wall have changed little since January. Democrats and the Democratic-leaning independents overwhelmingly favor granting legal status to those who came to the U.S. illegally as children. 89%, as do about half of the Republicans and Republican leaners, 54%. About a third of Republicans, 36%, oppose this policy. The finding in this survey do not relate to the current controversy over separating immigrants from their children at the border, but only to children who have arrived across the U.S. with their families. Okay, so we're just gonna read down into like about right here, so we can get where their polling is. Our polling is showing something very different, though. I just want to know exactly, Torian. Shout out to our good brother Torian Rain. Exactly, these phantom polls. They just like, here's a result of the polls. We're like, what polls? When did you guys do a national poll? Notice, family, every time the country does a quote unquote national poll, we don't know about it. Nobody asks us, sir, we're doing a national poll asking these questions. They just pop up with these results of these polls that they take overnight. Like, when was this poll done? How long did you guys take with it? Huh? These just polls. Okay. Oh, wow. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. All right. It says Republican men, 40% are more likely to oppose granting legal status than are Republican women, 32%. While younger Republicans, those 18 to 49 is younger, okay, broadly support granting legal status to those brought to the U.S. illegally as children. 59 favor, 34 oppose. Older Republicans are more divided, 49 favor, 38 oppose. There is no major subgroup of Republicans in which a majority opposes granting legal status to immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children. Among Democrats, there is a broad support for the policy across nearly all demographics and ideological groups. Okay, so this is where you can kind of see, we're going to zoom in a little bit. This is where you can see. So all Republicans leaning, as you can see, most of them really favor when you calculate all of this. For the men, most of the men, they're opposed to it. The women, they're more in favor of it. Now, what they're not doing is they're also not showing the amount that is kind of in the middle. So, okay, if 40% oppose and 51% favor, you know what I'm saying? You still have a good percentage that's kind of in the middle. They're not really saying what's like in the, what's in the middle with that. So you don't really know, but okay. So this is the poll they're saying, and then this is the poll up here where they say this is the poll they took of 2000. They're saying all of these people are in favor, and these people right here. Now, it's interesting. They're asking Democrats and Republicans. Are they asking independents? Because they're not showing the statistics on what the independents think about it. Because there's a lot of people who are independent and they're kind of on different issues. So we don't know. All right, but okay. But you know, they're law-abiding citizens, right? Pretty law-abiding citizens, don't you think? I mean, they come from a country where it's pretty crime-free. I mean, it's a no-brainer they would be law enforcement considering how crime-free their home country is, and they came here since they were like 16 years old, right? Okay. Except the fact now, if JB is allowing them to become senators, and I mean not senators, police officers, sheriffs, you know, other special law enforcement, special police, which means SWAT and, you know, detectives and stuff like that. I wonder what he thinks about this right here, because this is the issue that I'm kind of concerned with. Now, if you guys checked out my broadcast a couple of days ago, I talked about this going on specifically in Chicago, and here is more proof. All right, this happened recently as well too. It says no law, no rule of law. Oh, that's interesting that they would become law enforcement and then no rule of law. City council members decry criminal activity outside migrant shelters. Oh wow. Okay, it says I'm so very surprised. These people are going to be law enforcement. How can they enforce the law if they're breaking it? That's terrible. Okay, that's absolutely terrible. It says during the 3-hour hearing, it's a 3-hour hearing on the migrant crisis, Alderman Jeanette Taylor accused top mayoral aides of portraying a ridiculously rosy picture that doesn't match the ugly conditions on the ground. All right. You know, look at all these buses just dropping them off. Just dropping them off. Look at them. Buses after buses after buses. Okay. But it says city council members on Wednesday decried the lawlessness. Sorry if it's jumping. That's probably just the ads popping up. The lawlessness, including sex trafficking and drug dealing. Now, why would we allow these people to become police officers? Look at the culture that they have over here. Sex trafficking and drug dealing. We don't need that in the country. Now, a lot of this stuff is going on in Chicago. Now, even though the policy that J.B. Pritzer signed off on is allowing them to become police officers in the state of Illinois, most of where they're going to be applying to be police officers are going to be in the city of Chicago. Okay, so it's not going to be in like the rural towns or whatever, because they don't have a large population outside of there. Okay, thank you, Torian, for getting that person out. I didn't even see him. Now it says they're allowed the sex trafficking and drug dealing. What are they doing about that? They're giving them more privileges, but they're not stopping the crime that they're committing. But when they talk about Chicago, it's all this black on black crime, right? All right. Then it says they say is occurring outside Chicago immigrant. Oh, Lord. Y'all have to forgive all that jumping. It's going to stop eventually. They're saying it's happening outside of Chicago immigrant shelters and demanded a crackdown before the behavior devolves into violence. Once you engage in real sex trafficking, you can argue it's already devolved into violence. Now it's saying education committee chair Alderman Jeanette Taylor, representing the 20th ward, represents the impoverished Woodlawn neighborhood where 584 immigrants were staying in the former Wadsworth Elementary School. That's the elementary school where Lori Lightfoot was, fixing it up for them, and then the residents was all like, hey, and that's a mostly black area in Chicago. So that's where the Black Chicagoans, they were all like, hey, hold on. They shouldn't be over here. What is up with this? This is ridiculous. So that's where she's from. That's where she represents. Okay. Then it says downtown alderman Brandy Riley, the 42. Now he's Hispanic, represents Streetserville, a location of the Inn of Chicago. That's when they're saying the Inn of Chicago. That's where most of the immigrants are flooding to. All right. Okay. That's where a large percent of them are. All right. That's not flooding to the black population. Okay. Because it has the biggest shelter. Home of the city's largest shelter with 1,468 immigrants in one shelter. All right. And the reason they're flooding to there is not because of the Hispanic population in the area necessarily. It's just because they have the biggest shelter. All right. So let's just be clear about that. Then it says, although the economic circumstances could not be more difficult. Although the economic circumstances could not be more difficult, both alderpersons described similarly chaotic and criminal conditions outside their shelters during a meeting of the Council's Committee on Immigrants and Refugee Rights. Quote, there was a gentleman who said he pulled out a gun on an immigrant. That's a interesting way to describe the person. It was a gentleman. It was a gentleman who pulled out a gun on an immigrant. It's interesting you called him gentleman. You know he's not black because they wouldn't be calling him a gentleman. It was a gentleman. Okay. Continues to say, and while I don't agree with him doing that, I don't agree with him doing that, or really watering that down. I don't agree with him doing that. That's going to happen. That's what's going to happen if we don't have a real plan for what happens with people who break the law, Taylor said. Oh, okay. That now she's talking about it. This immigrant must have been doing something. And she's making it seem like this is up. There's a gentleman who pulled out a gun on an immigrant. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that form of behavior. Hey, well, if the gentleman in question, if the gentleman was defending himself, what was the immigrant doing? Because what they're trying to do, and let me pause it for a second. What they're going to start doing, what you're going to start seeing in cities like Chicago, New York, DC, what you're going to start seeing them doing is you're going to start seeing a lot of immigrants. And I discussed this before in a previous video I did. A lot of them are coming over here. They're committing crimes. In this very article, it states that they're coming over here, sex trafficking, drug dealing, car theft, a lot of that stuff they're doing. So when people, if somebody is breaking into your car while you're not in your car, or worse, if you're in your car and you defend them yourself, they're going to say, oh, it's people pulling out guns on immigrants. Well, okay, well, what were the immigrants doing? Were they minding their business, just walking down the street and someone's like, oh, look at this immigrant. Was that happening? No, not in most of the cases. So in a lot of cases, what you're going to see happening is you're going to see people defending themselves against these criminals. And I'm not saying they're criminals out of xenophobia. They're saying they're criminals. Okay. The older person are saying they're criminals. They're saying that they have a criminal contingency in the immigrants that they're allowing to come over here, that they're not vetting. So they're just allowing them to come over here. So when we defend ourselves, they're going to say, well, it's mark my words, they're going to say it's xenophobia. They're going to say they're a protected class. They're going to say you can't touch a hair on their head. They're saying they're not doing anything. They're fleeing from this country and people are rot. They're going to say you're the bad guy for defending them. Mark my words. That's what they're going to say. That's what they're going to say. All right. We got a bunch of people in here, y'all. Please make sure that you guys are subscribed and hit that like button, because that really, really helps the channel. All right. Okay. So right here, it says, now these, mind you, while we're getting into this, is because these are the people, a lot of these people who are illegal, who are dealing drugs, okay, who are involved in sex trafficking, all right. And if you watch my previous video I did, are getting slaps on the wrist, are not, getting let go. These are the people that J.B. Pritzer is saying is eligible because they would be eligible for DACA. And I did it on purpose. I specifically read what makes a person eligible for DACA before I got into this. So mind you, as we're reading through this, a lot of these people would be eligible to receive DACA, to be a DACA recipient. Okay. And I did it in order for you guys to understand, so we can have a full third point of view picture of this. All right. Now, it continues to say, during a 3-hour hearing, Taylor accused top mayoral aides of presenting a ridiculously rosy picture that doesn't match the ugly conditions on the ground. It says, oh, Lord, okay. This article is just doing the most right now. It says, tell the issue about the people who are outside threatening residents. Okay, tell them about the sex trafficking that's happening, the drug dealing that's happening, she said. So you know what? I need to set up a meeting to actually talk to her. That's what I need to do. I need to get that set up so I can actually talk to her, because that's what needs to happen. All right. So they're sitting up there making it seem like these people need to get jobs, get benefits. That's what Brandon Johnson's on. That's what J.B. Pritzker's on, and that's what President Joe Biden is on. That's the pages that they're on. So you have and for the most part, she seems really on code when it comes to this particular issue. I don't know about like everything else, so I don't know her that well. But on this issue, she's like, no, that's a problem. And she's I will give her credit, she's one of the few aldermen who not only disagree, who will vocalize her disagreement and her grievance with them coming over here, flooding over here, and tethering off the Chicago resources. So I'll give her props for that. All right. So it says, she continues to say, quote, they're outside smoking weed. They're outside having whole parties right in front of the senior building, and the police are scared. I wouldn't really use the word scared. The police are scared. Let's be honest. You got 2 CPD cars sitting out there. It says sitting out there who do nothing until I drive up and say, hey, they can't stand here. So this is what I'm saying. The Chicago police are just letting them run amok. There are 2 police cars, and you think coming to another country that you'd be like super like strict on following the rules. You don't want to get kicked out. You don't want to get arrested and possibly deported. You think that you'd be thinking like that. That's what you think. But they're outside. I mean, they just outside smoking weed, having parties. The police just sitting up there like, damn, look at them go, and not doing anything until the alderman. You mean to tell me the alderman has to pull up on the police and be like, what are y'all doing? Put the donuts down and go move them. Put the donuts down and do your job. Now, with black people, they don't let black people just sit up there and be outside a senior just smoking weed and doing all this stuff and causing the news. They don't need to be out there doing that. They're not scared. They just don't want to do anything. Because what are they to be scared of? What are they scared of? They're scared of doing their job. They're scared of putting forth effort. I wouldn't use the word scared. Lazy, ineffective. Those are, words that I think would be more better fitting than the word scared. They're not scared of anything. All right. It says Taylor was reduced to tears. Wow. Reduced to tears at the May 30th council meeting, explaining how torn she was supporting the 51 million in emergency funding, and we talked about that at a previous broadcast before. She was one of the only, I will give her credit, which is why I need to talk to her. She was one of the only aldermen who was very vocal in saying, no, that's ridiculous. Majority of the aldermen was off code. Majority of the aldermen was on board with it. All right. She was reduced to tears to say, because she knows how bad her city is. Her ward. I mean, she knows how bad her ward is. So she's all like, look at Chicago, y'all bending over backwards and y'all digging up money out of nowhere that y'all claim y'all never have. and this is an emergency funding. Y'all giving them millions of dollars a month. This is why we need reparations, okay? This is why we're not saying reparations is optional. Reparations is not optional. Don't tell us you don't have the money. Don't tell us it will break the economy. Don't tell us you don't know how to spend it, because y'all don't need a study for them. Y'all don't need to find a new budget. Y'all don't need to do some type of survey to find out who agrees, who disagrees. Now, anytime, mind you, let me just pause it for a second. Let me pause this for one good second. Anytime they have a study that's in favor of illegal immigration, anytime they have a study, mysterious study just pops up out of nowhere. You don't know when the study is conducted. You don't know when the study is going on. All you know is the results of the study. Anytime they have a study that they show you, it's always in favor of the immigrants. It's always in favor of them doing that. It's always in favor of that. They're having studies, they're having polls, and they're finding out it's in favor of that. Notice that they don't ever have a study on these type of things. Notice that they don't ever have a study on giving them the bank, giving them the bag. Notice that there's never a study. Notice that there's never a poll asking, do most Americans, or even Chicago, you don't have to do Americans, you could just do Chicagoans. Do most Chicagoans support the $51 million a month? It was only from 1 month, a $51 million a month for them. No poll. Notice they never show a poll. They never conduct a poll unless they know the poll is going to lean towards the agenda that they want to show. So they'll only show the polls that put the immigrants in a good light, that show, oh, well, most of America are in favor of this. Okay, with thousands of them coming over here, do they have polls for DC? Do they have polls for New York? Do they have polls for Chicago and other places that they're coming over to? Notice how when the poll that they know is not going to go in their favor, there's no poll, there's no study. But when the poll that they feel like is in favor, they do a small little sample size poll and be all like, see, most of Americans say this. And they know for a fact that most of Americans did not say that. Most of Americans, 22,000 is not nearly representative of what most of Americans believe, even if you did it randomly, allegedly. But even if you did it randomly, which we know you couldn't have done it randomly, because there's a whole bunch, there's millions and millions of people who are independent. But somehow you only were able to find Democrats and Republicans. And did you find an even amount of Democrats and Republicans? How do we know that the poll that we just showed is not 1,500 Democrats and then 502 Republicans? And you know the Democrats are going to lean towards immigration, you know, so they're going to say, oh, well, look at the poll. The poll seems odd when you really think about it in that type of detail, but they'll give you the poll and say, well, most of Americans, they say they agree with that. Most of it, yeah, that's what most of Americans say. Notice they never ever have a poll that would go against their agenda. That's fair enough. That would slide in their agenda. Oh, I find that interesting. I find that very interesting. Because looking at the poll we got going on, is not saying that. The poll we got going on, you know, is saying the exact opposite, to be totally honest with you. But okay. Now I'm gonna just start over from the top. Taylor was reduced to tears at the May 31st council meeting, explaining how torn she was supporting the 51 million in emergency funding for the migrant crisis, while the needs of African Americans, foundational Black Americans, y'all know, but the needs of African Americans continue to be ignored. Real talk, for real, 100%, right? Her tears of anger intensified when a handful of protesters at the council chambers barred her a traitor and sellout for that vote. And here's the thing. this is why we need to talk. I want to actually have a talk, and I'm talking about a talk, okay? Because she says a lot of stuff that's on code. She's like, I'm torn. I can't believe it. You guys aren't supporting African Americans like that. But do you vote yes for them to get this money? Oh, yeah, I do support it. I support it. But I also see this is the issue. Okay, so and this is why I want to talk to her. I'll give her the points for vocalizing against it, but the thing is that we need people who are not just vocal against it, who actually move against it. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. If you're gonna say, I don't like this, I'm gonna sign yes anyway, but I really don't like it, guys. I really don't. What do I sign? I sign right here. I print right here. I say yes right here. Okay, fine. I agree. I signed it. You can give them the money. But I want you to know that I didn't like signing that. I didn't. You know, I agreed. Oh, you need me to sign a copy? Okay, I'll sign it again. I'll sign another one right here. You know, here, let me dip my finger in this ink and let me give you a fingerprint so that way it's verified that it is mine. But I disagree. What's the point of that? What's the point of you saying you disagree? What's the point of you making a stand saying that the black population in your area is not getting the resources if you're going to sign off on them getting the resources? So you're being on code vocally, but then politically you're being very off code. See, we have a lot of these shady politicians out here who are doing that. Okay, so you know, I kind of just jogged my memory. Like, yeah, she did do that. I'm sitting up there like, yeah, she seemed like she on code, cool. And then I'm like, yeah, you know what? She did sign off on that. She was sitting up there crying. I can't believe it. Tears dropping as she's signing the check marks. Tears dropping. I can't believe I'm signing this. Okay. All that crying. I'm crying, guys. Did you sign it? Well, yeah, I did, but you know, I didn't like it. What? Okay. Tears of frustration. Yeah, you are a traitor in the sellout. The hell? Anyway, it says, Wednesday, Taylor demanded a special council meeting on the city's plan to combat the lawlessness, joined by Riley. It's pronounced like Riley, I believe. Riley or Relly, but Riley. I forget sometimes. Committee Chair Alderman Andrew Vasquez of the 40th Ward. Okay, that's the chair alderman. And Alderman Maria Haddon of the 29th. Riley said there is, quote, no rule of law, especially after 10 p.m. in the 100 block of Ohio, not Iowa. I don't know why I said that. Ohio, state of Chicago. A constitute set of photos showing 60 kids, 60 kids, many of whom with guns. These are the kids who are DACA recipients who are going to be police officers. Mind you, remember that. 60 kids with guns, all right, in their waistbands, consuming alcohol and marijuana on the public right of way unchecked, he said. These are the people who are going to be like, hey, I don't see any problem with them being police officers. That's the thing. You don't know them. They're not vetted. You don't even know how old they were when they were born. You be like, do you speak Spanish? No, I don't speak Spanish. When were you born? I'm 14 years old. This is the tallest 14-year-old I've seen. I've never seen a 13-year-old with hair on his chest and a mustache. That's a very mature 13-year-old. You look older than your dad. Talking about I'm 14 years old. Okay. All right then. Okay. Says Riley said he was promised regular patrols with beat officers checking the Inn of Chicago lobby once or twice a day, plus rigid enforcement of the toll zone he had established to end the what quote curbside party, drug dealing and drug use. They out here just tearing Chicago up. All right, but these are the people y'all gave money to. So don't be sitting up there like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Y'all gave them this money, now they buying drugs, and they be like, oh, we got to do something to stop this. Y'all shouldn't have gave them the money. All right, this y'all fault. It continues to say, none of this has happened. It says none of this has happened. It says none of it has happened. Huh? Okay. The number of the youngest male, brandishing weapons, the youngest males brandishing weapons is getting worse. You know, recently, I think it was a couple years ago, there was a 13-year-old Hispanic who was shot by police in Little Village. This man had a gun. This man was a part of a gang. It was outside. It was like 3:00 in the morning or something like that. Like they get in gangs young. I'm talking young. All right. You can talk about the GDs and the BDs and the gangs in Chicago and the misguidedness in Chicago. And yeah, that's a problem. But the thing is that the adults in Chicago, I'll give gangs in Chicago this. When it comes to the gangs in Chicago, you don't see like no 40-year-old gang member recruiting 11. You don't really see that. You don't really see that like you see in other cultures. In gang, you can talk about gangs. Oh, they're selling drugs. They're a danger to the community. But what you don't see like I'm not talking about, 16-year-olds or early 20s or something. I'm talking about these people are getting kids prepubescent. They send up there dealing drugs at 9 years old, 10 years old. You don't really see that in the black neighborhood. You don't see us doing that. You don't see us having little 11-year-olds moving weight like that and dealing drugs. You don't see that. That's not in our culture, but that's in their culture. Their country, and it's documented. I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up. And they're coming over here dealing drugs. Can't even write in cursive, and they sitting up there selling weight. And I'm not making that up. And we all know that's the truth. They're dealing drugs, and then they become a DACA recipient. And then they become a police officer. All right? And you can only imagine the crime. It just jumped. Hold on. It just jumped a little bit, so I got to find where we were. You can only imagine the crime that they would allow and permit if they were kid drug dealers, and now they're police officers. And it says right here, right? The only department that is really responsive is streets and sanitation. The only department that is really responsive is streets and sanitation, cleaning up the bottles, the marijuana butts, the garbage, the human feces. These are disgusting. These are not even clean criminals. These are sitting up there, they smoking, taking dumps outside. And these are going to be police officers? Really? The human feces from the blocks. That's it. Really? Okay. All right. Y'all. We can thank Joe Biden for this. Thank Joe Biden. Thank the mayor. Thank the governor. Thank them. This is their fault. This is what they're allowing. Okay. Now, it continues to say, excuse me. It continues to say, there is a lot of guns. This says there is a lot of guns on the 2 blocks around this site. Suddenly, now let's ask a question. Let's really ask. Let me pause it real quick, because we really got to think deep. Let's just put our tinfoil kufi, our tinfoil bonnet on. Tinfoil do-rags, tinfoil kufis, tinfoil bonnets, whatever tinfoil thing that you wear on your head. Let's put that on for 1 second, right? Now, we've always been saying in the black community, we've been saying for the longest time that police officers are planting drugs, and we know that. They've confessed to that. Planting drugs, planting guns in the community. Okay, all right. Now, for the longest time, they say, no, they're not planting drugs. They're not planting guns in the community. That's not what's happening. they're getting guns from outside of the state, and then they're just bringing it in. Oh, okay. So let me ask you, these people who are just coming over here, they're not citizens, so they can't legally buy a gun, where are they getting all these guns from? We got our tinfoil headwear on for a second, but let's really think about it. They got guns, they got drugs, they got all this stuff. Where are they getting that from? I thought they came over here with no resources, no money, barely speaking English, and yet they're coming over here gangbanging. Where are they getting these guns from? It would almost seem, theoretically, if we just connect the dots, allegedly, it would almost seem as if they were being given the guns, that they're given these drugs. And based off of the police's responses, the police aren't doing anything to stop them. The police aren't doing anything. So they're being given these guns by this entity that we are not sure of. We don't want to cast any aspersions, but we're not sure of. But the police aren't doing anything to stop them. So is it too far-fetched to make the connection that maybe some of the police are giving them the guns? I don't know. I just got my tinfoil head. I don't know. Not sure. I don't think that the dots seem like it's adding up. It seemed like it's adding up, but okay. Let's continue. Where was it? Okay. Now, yeah, where were we? Okay. I will just start from the beginning. It says, there's a lot of guns on the 2 blocks around this site. Suddenly, we are having police call 911. People call 911 to report this. They're not being patrolled if you have to call 911, because 911 should be there. They're having them call 911 for consumption of narcotics, not just smoking marijuana, but heroin and crack. Damn. They're doing hardcore, not just marijuana. They're not smoking weed. They're doing hardcore drugs, heroin and crack. I'm also hearing about teenagers, and when they say teenagers, they mean underage. That's their lowball way of saying minors, underage. Okay, teenagers allegedly being sex trafficked in the curb cut. Now, shout out to brother TBA. He was talking about them doing this in New York. They got a lot of this stuff going on in New York that nobody's doing anything about. They're not doing anything about this at all. And nobody's even saying anything about it. All these feminists who are all like, women should have the right to and they want to get on Bill Cosby and they want to get on R. Kelly. They're not saying anything. What about women's rights and, women having the right to their bodies and protecting them from predators and all that stuff? So, I mean, I'm sorry. The pimps aren't black. When the pimps are black men, that's when they care. Got that messed up. No wonder. I'm sorry. I shouldn't even accuse you guys of not caring. You care when it's a black male, but when it's not a black male, then it happens. Can't save everybody, right? Okay. It says Alderman Ray Lopez of the 15th Ward volunteered Gage Park Field House in his ward as a shelter site, and 277 migrants are now there. He sent a letter to the mayor, Brandon Johnson, Wednesday, voicing concerns similar to those of his colleagues, including drug sales and usage, male and female. They pimping the boys. Damn. Okay, male and female prostitution and prostitution and associated human trafficking. Which that human trafficking, that means prostitution, that means, sex rings, that means organ harvesting, that means a lot of that stuff, okay? And gang recruitment. They just up here cutting amok. They said, you know what? Chicago is going to be Gotham City. I saw this movie, and Chicago is going to be Gotham City. That's what I'm going to make Chicago being. Okay. And even the Hispanic alderman is all like, hey, they cutting amok out here. Something gotta happen, Brandon. What you doing? What you doing? That's what they're saying. That says area, and then it continues to say area residents are, quote, reaching a boiling point, he wrote. And it continues to say residents now feel that their only resource is to take action against immigrant asylum seekers. I've been saying that this stuff is going on this stuff is about to be going on for a year, because it's August the 3rd now, and they started coming in like the mid to late August. So it's about to be a whole year of them just flying over here to Chicago, really to Chicago, to New York, and to DC mainly. Those are the three big places, but they've been flying everywhere. But it's about to be a whole year, and the tensions are only getting worse. And now the criminal class are only getting more emboldened, because if you don't do something to stop them, that only gives them a pass and incentivizes their criminal behavior. So it's going to reach to a point where people are feeling like, hey, if the police ain't going to do nothing, I'm not going to let them sit up there. And because the thing is, if they're sex trafficking their own people, you think they won't sex traffic your people? You think they won't, if they're kidnapping their own, you think they won't kidnap your children? They're definitely gonna do that. It's coming. TBA was just talking about this. So it's going to get to a point where, people are going to defend themselves, rightfully so, not attack anybody, but defend themselves. Then it continues to say, this is not a time for vigilantism. It's always vigilantism when they're black. It's rightful when they're not black, but okay, it's vigilantism when they're black. It is a time for you to step up and act. Lopez told Johnson. So even the Hispanic Lopez was like, hey man, something got to happen. Something has to happen. He continues to say, family and support services commissioners Brandy Nazes, Canis, and Lightfoot administration holdover acknowledged migrant shelters like the city overall have, quote, some good actors and some bad apples. We are not going to do the some bad because the thing is that, yeah, there might be some bad apples, but what are you doing? The bad apples are running amok, and there's no vetting process to restrict the bad apples. Y'all letting the bad apples come in here and do that. Yeah, there are some bad. That's what they all say. There are some bad apples. Yeah, there's some good actors and some bad actors. What are you? No. What are you doing? Well, first off, tell me, what is your vetting process to determine who's a good apple and who's a bad apple prior to them committing an act of crime? How do you know they're a criminal prior to them doing it? You don't. So that means that all of them coming over here, you are just going to assume they're quote good actors until they do something bad. Okay, and then when they do something bad and show you that they're a bad apple, what are you going to do to punish them? What are you going to do? All right, come on. And it says, during the July 4th holiday, we had a shelter where people were partying in the shelter and drinking. Where are they getting all this money in this? Well, we know where they're getting the money from. Never mind. Don't you need a license to buy alcohol, though? Even if you're 20, wouldn't you still need a license to buy alcohol? So who's illegally, let's be honest, somebody is illegally selling them alcohol, because if they're talking about minors drinking, doing drugs, who's selling them this alcohol? See, they don't want to get into the real nitty gritty, because a whole bunch of people got their hands in dirty money. A whole bunch of people in on the dirt. They're not asking the questions they need to be asking. It continues to say, and the shelter manager found them. All right. It was 1:00 in the morning, and those people were removed because it's not just the safety of the residents that's here. It's the safety of the staff. It's the community. Kenneth said. That's how it's spelled. At Wadsworth, Kenneth said 17 people were removed from the shelter, but seldom result from the criminal behavior, and police reports are rarely generated. So that means police arrest them, they put them in the cage, they put them behind bars or whatever, but they don't make a report. That is very important to know, and this is why I showed you guys earlier in the broadcast how they get to become DACA. And I showed that to you because they're saying, okay, if they don't have a report, they get to become DACA. But this is saying that the police, when they pick them up, rarely when they do, when they pick them up, they're not making any reports. So when they go for their DACA application, they don't have any reports, but they were sitting up there dealing drugs, using drugs, partying, smoking underage, drinking underage. They were doing all of this stuff, but it's not documented. That's the problem. And they're going to be DACA, and then they can be police officers. You think sex trafficking is bad now? Wait till you see a whole bunch of DACA people become police officers. Just wait. Just wait. You think they're going to arrest their uncles for trafficking girls? You think they're going to arrest their cousins or their fathers or their brothers or even the women? You think they're going to arrest them, or you think they're going to turn a blind eye? And continues to say, quote, CPD needs a reason. So if they're not on the property, then they can't arrest them, the commissioner said. If they're not on the property, the commissioner can't arrest them. What? This sounds like they're a protected class to me. And what the hell, commissioner? Because y'all don't say that about black people. Y'all, there's videos of black people in Chicago just walking in the street and police stopping, frisking them. Police been stopping and frisking black people for decades, for really decades, if we're going to be really, really honest. But they've been stopping and frisking black people for years now. None of this stuff happens when it comes to black people. Notice the police always give excuses about, well, the law restricts me from arresting them, and I just really can't. I mean, my hands are tied behind my back. They never, ever, ever have that excuse when it comes to black people. When it comes to black people, there is never no excuse as to why they can't arrest anybody. There is never no excuse as to why they can't ticket nobody. There is never no, well, they have to be on the property for me to arrest them. What? There's really nothing we can do. There has to be a reason. With police, they'll just pull you over and say, well, you look suspicious. That's my reason is I think that you are suspicious based off of my interpretation. Well, what is your interpretation of suspicious? Shut up, nigger. That's what they say. All right. Then it continues to say, quote, but if we allow that behavior, it'll fester and grow. And that just won't work when you've got that many people in a building. We have to protect the integrity of the shelter system because we can't have chaos. Christina, man, I said her name before. I be forgetting it. Christina Pisano Zayas. Y'all know. Pisano Zayas, Johnson's deputy chief of staff, told the Sun-Times Friday night's altercation between residents and migrants outside Wadsworth occurred during a power outage. And then it continues to say, quote, it resulted in some broken windows at a neighborhood's property, and then retaliation with broken windows with one of the shelter's residents' cars. Pisano Zia said, quote, we're just trying to have some conflict excuse me. It says conflict meditation and some additional law enforcement presence so that we're not having folks loitering and the issues that can emerge when you're just hanging out. Also during runs, see, now it's kind of jumping around again, but that's what's happening. It says also during Wednesday's meeting, Kazes, y'all know his name, Kazes, whatever, said that with the school year starting, the city is preparing to move migrants from Daly and Wright City College to the American Islamic College. Really? Oh, okay. American Islamic College. That's 640 West Irving Park Road. Huh. Interesting. Since August, roughly 11,500 migrants. 11,500 migrants, roughly. Okay, so when they say roughly, that's not an exact number. So that means the number is higher than that. Okay, that means the number is higher. Okay, roughly 11,500. All right, there are some cities that don't have 11,500 people in it. 11,500 people since August. That's in 1 year. That's in 1 year. Okay, that have arrived in Chicago. There has been a 19% in the last week, with 860 migrants still sleeping on police station floors. Well, they're going to become police, so they won't have to police sleep on the floors. They can sleep in the back office. I guess that's what J.B Pritzer was all like. Well, instead of sleeping on the floors, let's just make them police. They're already in the police station. They should already know how it works. Boy. Okay, this was the bill that Raymond Lopez sent. Oh Lord. Okay, it's jumping around a lot, so we're gonna kind of wrap that up right there, because this is playing this little game. It's playing this little game. Yeah, you said she says 11,500 people live in my town. There are some. That's what I'm saying. There are actual towns, real cities that don't have. That's a very decent population. Now Chicago has got like millions of people, but Chicago is one of the biggest cities in America. But that number alone could have it could fill that population. There are cities in America that don't even have that that's a huge population. To invade a city in less than a year, in less than 1 year, there is no way you can have a legitimate vetting process to find out who are the good actors and the bad apples. There is no legitimate way you can do that if you're allowing so many of them to come over. There's no, you have to have a vetting process, a background check to check their background to see if they're lying. You can't do that with the short amount of time you're allowing all of these people to come over here. You're allowing them to just flood over here for the most part. And this is why so many criminals are coming over here. They're having criminals come over here, and you have no way to prevent the criminals from coming over here because you're not putting any barrier. You're not. It was last year where they was all like, you know what, Chicago is packed. Before they even started allowing police officers to sleep on the floors of police stations, they were saying, hey, the shelters are packed. Greg Abbott, from the governor in Texas, stop sending them over here. There's nothing we can do. We're packed. He was like, hey, if y'all gonna accept them, they can't stay over here. You saying they can stay over there? I'm sending them your way. Now, they're not saying, fill that bus back up, give them water bottles, and send them right back home. They're not saying that. They're saying, okay, I guess we got to find a way for them to come over here. So they're having them come over here sleeping on floors in police stations. But they don't know anything. Then, mind you, too, what a lot of them, what they're doing, they're deliberately, because best know that they're in contact with their family members back at home. They're in contact with them. So what they're doing, right? What they're doing is, and this has been documented. I'm not making none of this up. This has been documented. So what a lot of them do is, a lot of them phone home and they be all like, hey, send the young over here. Send the young that can apply for the DACA stuff. Send the young that can apply the real young kids. Send them over here deliberately. They're sending the young over here deliberately. Make sure you send pregnant women over here deliberately. Do you know? Because it was a thing, I think it was in 2011 with Asians doing this. It was a scandal that got exposed. Do you know a lot of them are purposefully, and I'm not making this up, you can go Google this yourself. A lot of them are purposefully, not making this up, getting pregnant, waiting about 6 months in, you know what I'm saying? And then coming over here and having the baby over here and be all like, hey, well, technically, hold on. That's an American citizen with birthright citizenship. It's a finesse that they're deliberately doing. So even if they get deported, even if they take their baby back to their home country, they would be able to be like, technically, the baby was born in America. So if an American, one of the ways that makes it easier for people to come over here with vouchers and green cards and become citizens is if they have an American citizen vouch for them. Okay, this is what the law is. So if an American citizen vouches for them, it opens up a door for a lot of them to come over here. So what they'll do is they'll be all like, you know what, I'll have a baby in America. I can go back home. This baby can become a full adult in another country, but the baby does not lose his or her citizenship from America because they were born in America. Then they can come back to America. They can vouch for me to come over here. They can vouch for me. They can vouch for him. They can vouch for her. They can vouch for a whole bunch of other people. So best believe they're phoning home and be all like, hey, send him, send her, send her. She's pregnant. Okay, cool. Make sure she's good and pregnant too. She's good and pregnant so she can have all of the medical care and everything like that. So there's no problem or anything. They send her over here. They're paying for their medical care. They're having babies. They're like, finesse is in the bag. This is a future DACA recipient right here. This is really not even DACA. This is a citizen. Because DACA, you have to keep renewing the policy for DACA. You don't have to renew that if you're a citizen. If you were born here, you don't have to renew that. So they're deliberately sending a lot of young who can pass for under 16 years old. A lot of them who could pass, you wouldn't know, but they could pass. A lot of them who are pregnant, they say, oh, send them over here. It's okay. We can wait. Y'all open the gates. Bam. It's easy access for us. That's what they're doing. And a lot of them are coming over here in the meantime, committing crimes, selling drugs, dealing drugs, using drugs, not just marijuana and weed, heroin, crack, selling guns. Where are they getting them from? They're not going to tell you. Doing a whole bunch of defecating in the streets like a bunch of savages, like a bunch of animals. They're doing that. And what is our politicians going to do? What is the so-called black politicians going to do? Nothing, not a damn thing, except give them money, because that's what they're doing. I take that back. Not doing anything, but giving them money. And the second, watch when they start attacking foundational Black Americans, because they're racist. They hate us. They hate their Afro Latinos back in their country, and they'll admit that if they're telling the truth. They do. They will admit it if they're telling the truth. Okay, that's where the whole La Raza comes from. So they come over here, they attack us, we defend ourselves. They'll say that's a hate crime on them. On them. That's what's happening. This is why we have to make such a strong push for our reparations. We have to make such a strong push. Hey, y'all not getting anything till y'all do something specifically for Black people. All this Black and brown stuff is over with. We don't want nothing. Also, too, here's what they're doing. What they're going to make it seem, they're trying to use select polling. They're trying to use select numbers, talk to select people, put the cameras and microphones in front of select people to say, oh, we want something for them to come over here, and they're just like our cousins too. They're like our cousins. They're like brothers from another mother. They're trying to come over here and do that. So it's very important that when we have public hearings, when we have town halls, when there are meetings and stuff like that, that we get out there and vocalize our disapproval of the decisions from the governor, decisions from the mayor, and decisions from the alderman in local government. We have to voice our disapproval of and Joe Biden too. Okay, we have to point the finger at them, because what they're going to do is they're going to say, guys, I'm sorry you guys are suffering like this. I'm sorry this has happened. I'm so terribly sorry of that. But this is Greg Abbott. This is Greg Abbott's fault, because Greg Abbott is sending them here from Texas. So if he wasn't sending them here from Texas, they wouldn't be here. So this is all Greg Abbott's fault. But the thing is that Greg Abbott sent them because you opened the gates, you opened the door. If you guys would close the door, they wouldn't be here. That's the problem. That's the problem. So we got to focus on the Democratic Party. Is, even though Republicans are sending them over here, is the Democrat Party that is allowing them to come here. Okay, so we're not gonna play those games of them trying to blame it on the Republican. Okay, we're not doing that. All right. Also, too, hey, if it's getting to a point where they're criminals, it's getting to a point where they're engaging in sex trafficking, or they're engaging in drug dealing and all this stuff, robbing, all this stuff. If they're engaging in that stuff, nobody's going to defend you but you and your own. It's up to you, the people listening right now, live and recorded. It's up to you to defend yourself and defend your people, defend your family. It's up to you to make sure that happens. It's up to me to make sure that happens. All right. So that means you guys got to keep your protection with you. You guys got to keep your head on the swivel, especially when you're out in populations that have high immigrant. And this isn't me being xenophobic. I don't want YouTube saying nothing, because I just read this is what the aldermen are saying. All right. This is what the aldermen are confessing to and admitting to. Keep your head on the swivel. Keep your power tools on you. Stay ready. You know what I'm saying? Don't be going out places, especially late at night by yourself or whatever the case is. Don't be doing that. Do not be doing that. You have to be ready. Okay? Make sure your kids coming back from school, because what's going to happen, unfortunately, I'm just warning, what's going to happen is they're going to be soliciting right outside of the schools. They're going to be watching your kids, watching when they get on the bus, watching, okay, if your kid leaves school before the bus comes to pick them up, they run to the 7-Eleven or whatever Family Dollar, and they get themselves some candy and some chips or something like that. That's what child predators do. This is what child predators do. It's so many documents on this. This is what they do. When it comes to human trafficking and sex trafficking, they have to make sure, because they don't have a million chances to get it right. They have to get it right every single time. So that means that they have to know the routine. Okay, if you pick them up at if you come around 3:15, 3:20, and they get out of school at 3:00, then that means I got good 10 minutes or so before anybody comes out. So what they'll do, I'm telling you, what they'll do is they'll talk to them. They'll be nice and they'll be polite. They'll talk to them. And they'll be all like, hey, start conversation, where you're from, They'll create some form of rapport. And there's been a lot of documentaries and it's some evil stuff. I gotta say it. I hate to say it, but I gotta say it. They'll talk to them and they'll be all like, yeah, I'm about to go to the store. You want something? You want something from the store? Oh, just come with me so you can pick out what you want. You'll never see them again. You have to be prepared. You have to let your children know. You don't go over there. You don't talk to nobody. You don't talk to no adult. Not only that, what's more dangerous and more deadly, because they make their criminals, they have their criminals be children. This is something that they will admit to. in their countries, they'll have their children, 10 years old, 9 years old, be criminals. So they'll have their kids, and this is something that they do a lot, especially in places like Texas and Atlanta. They do this a lot in those places. What they'll do is they'll have their kids go out and get other kids, and the adults just be sitting back in the van, not doing nothing and just waiting. And the kids be like, "Hey, you want to play with me and my friends? I got my toys over here. I got a new PlayStation. You want to go back to my place and play some PlayStation while you waiting on your mom? Okay, cool." And you come around the corner when nobody sees, bam, it happens. And this is what happens. I'm not making it up. This is what happens. This is already happening. Okay. And the police aren't going to do nothing because they're just letting them run free. They're just letting them run free. So in a lot of these states where this stuff is happening, it's up to us to make sure that we protect ourselves and protect our children. It's up to us because nobody's going to do it if we don't. Man, it's a messed up situation, but it is going to get better. It's going to get worse. I'm sorry. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But if we stay on code, we'll be safe and we'll make it through this storm if we stay on code with it. All right. Now, brothers and sisters, I want to thank you all again. If you guys, for the people who are coming in now, we have made it officially to 7,000 subscribers. All we need is 3 more to get to 10K. All we need is 3 more to get to 10K. All right. We've made it to 7,000. And the 8,000 that's coming right up, thanks to people, us being on code with each other. We're gonna get to 8,000 very quickly. Okay, then 9,000, then 10,000. Bet you by the end of the year, 10,000. We got this. All right. So I appreciate and support every single last one of you. I thank you all for your support. I greatly appreciate it. It humbles me so very much. Also, you can be following me on my various social media platforms, which is Afro Elite on Instagram and the Afro Elite on Twitter. All right. And the links to both of those are in the description below. Now, with that being said, my brothers and my sisters, be one salute to every single last one of you all. You all be safe. You all make sure your people are safe. And of course, you all have a good one.